There is something inside you that you cannot silence anymore. You tried to move forward, you tried to ignore it, you tried to bury it under distractions, but it keeps coming back. That quiet weight, that inner tension, that feeling that something is not right between you and God, and deep down you already know what it is. What if this moment right now is not random? What if the reason you are here is because your soul is ready to stop running and start healing? Most people never reach this point. They keep hiding, they keep pretending, they keep carrying what is slowly breaking them inside. But you are still here, watching, searching, and that means something is shifting. There is a reason Psalm 51 has endured through generations. It is not just a prayer, it is a turning point. It is what happens when a person stops making excuses and finally faces the truth with honesty. Not to be condemned, but to be restored. Not to stay in guilt, but to be made new. If you leave now, you go back to carrying the same weight, the same thoughts, the same distance. But if you stay, something can begin to change. Not on the surface, but at the deepest level of who you are. This is not about perfection. This is about restoration. This is about returning to a place you thought you had lost. Stay with this until the end. Because what begins as discomfort can become freedom, and what feels like the end of your strength can become the beginning of a new heart. Now everything depends on one question. Are you ready to face what is inside you, or will you keep running from it? The weight you can no longer ignore. There are things you wish had never happened. Words you wish you could take back. Decisions you replay in your mind, hoping that somehow they would change if you thought about them long enough. But they do not change. They remain, not just in your memory, but in the way you feel, in the way you think, in the way you carry yourself when no one is watching. This is the weight most people try to hide. Not because it is small, but because it is too heavy to explain. You smile when you need to. You move forward when you have to. But deep inside, something feels unsettled. There is a quiet awareness that something within you is not aligned, not at peace, not whole. You can distract yourself during the day. You can fill your time, your mind, your attention. But there are moments when everything slows down, and that feeling rises again. It does not shout, it does not force itself, but it stays present. It waits. It reminds you that ignoring it has not made it disappear. And here is the truth that is difficult to accept. That weight is not there to destroy you. It is there to wake you up. It is the signal that something inside you needs to be addressed, not avoided. Because what you carry internally will eventually shape everything externally. Your peace, your clarity, your connection with God, all of it is affected by what you refuse to confront. Most people spend years running from this moment. They convince themselves that time will fix it, that life will move on, that things will somehow resolve on their own. But unresolved weight does not fade. It settles deeper. It becomes part of how you see yourself, how you approach God, how you believe you are seen. And that is where the real danger begins, not in the mistake itself, but in the distance it creates. A distance that slowly convinces you that you cannot come back, that you are too far gone, that something has been permanently broken. But that is not the truth. The fact that you feel this weight means something inside you is still alive, still sensitive, still aware. And that awareness is the beginning of something powerful. Because before restoration can happen, there must be recognition. Before healing begins, there must be honesty. Right now, you are standing in that exact place. You can keep carrying it, or you can start facing it. And what you choose next will determine everything that follows. The silence that reveals the soul. There are moments when everything around you becomes quiet, and suddenly there is nowhere to hide. No noise to cover what you feel, no distraction strong enough to pull your attention away. It is in these moments that something deeper begins to surface. Not because it is new, but because it has been waiting for you to finally notice it. Silence has a way of revealing what we spend most of our time avoiding. During the day, you can move fast, stay busy, keep your mind occupied. But when the noise fades, your thoughts become clearer, and with that clarity comes truth. The kind of truth that does not depend on what others see, but on what you know within yourself. This is where many people become uncomfortable, because in silence, there are no excuses, no explanations, no one else to blame. Just you, your thoughts, and the awareness of what is really going on inside your heart. And that awareness can feel overwhelming when you have spent so long trying not to face it. You might recognize this moment. When you lie down at night and your mind refuses to rest. When you sit alone and something inside you feels heavy without a clear reason. When a memory comes back, not to accuse you but to remind you that it still matters, that it still needs to be addressed. This is not weakness, this is exposure, and exposure is necessary for transformation, because what stays hidden cannot be healed. What is constantly avoided will continue to grow in silence, shaping your thoughts, your emotions, and even your relationship with God without you realizing it. There is a reason why this moment feels so intense. It is because your soul is no longer satisfied with superficial peace. It is searching for something real, something deeper than temporary relief, something that can reach the root of what you are feeling and not just cover it. And this is where everything begins to shift. Because the silence you once feared is actually creating space. Space for honesty, space for clarity, space for a different kind of conversation. Not with others, but with God. But before that conversation can happen, something must take place within you. You must be willing to listen, not to what is comfortable, but to what is true. Because what comes next will require more than awareness. It will require courage. And that is the point most people never reach. They feel it, they recognize it, but they turn away before facing it fully. You are still here. Which means you are about to go further than most people ever do. The truth you keep avoiding. There is a moment when you stop pretending, even if it is only for a second, and you admit something to yourself that you have been trying to silence for a long time. Not because you did not know it, but because facing it would mean taking responsibility. And responsibility changes everything. You know exactly what went wrong. You may not say it out loud. You may not even allow yourself to think about it clearly. But it is there, defined, real, undeniable. It is not confusion that keeps you stuck. It is avoidance. It is easier to move forward without looking back. It is easier to tell yourself that time will fix it, that it does not matter anymore, that you have already moved on. But deep inside there is a quiet resistance to that idea, because you know that moving forward without truth is not progress, it is escape. And the longer you avoid it, the heavier it becomes. Not because the situation is growing, but because your mind keeps returning to it, replaying it, questioning it, trying to reshape it into something easier to accept. But no matter how many times you revisit it, the core remains the same. This is the moment where everything becomes clear. The issue is not what happened. The issue is what you have done with it since then. Have you faced it, or have you hidden from it? Have you taken ownership, or have you justified it in ways that allow you to move on without truly dealing with it? There is a difference between regret and transformation. Regret keeps you looking back with pain. Transformation requires you to look directly at the truth, without distortion, without defense, without excuses. And that is where most people stop, because the truth, when faced directly, strips away every layer of protection you have built around yourself. But that is also where real change begins. Because the moment you stop avoiding the truth is the moment you take back control. Not control over the past, but control over what comes next. You are no longer reacting, no longer running, no longer trying to outpace something that is still inside you. You are facing it. And facing it means you are no longer powerless. But here is what most people do not realize. The truth you are avoiding is not just about what you did. It is about what it created inside you. The distance, the tension, the subtle separation between you and God that you may not even have fully acknowledged yet. And that leads to something deeper, because what feels like guilt on the surface is often something more profound underneath. It is not just about the mistake. It is about the distance it created, and that is where the next step begins. It is not about the mistake, it is about the distance. The mistake is not the deepest problem. What truly changes everything is what happened after it. The shift inside you. The subtle distance that began to grow, not all at once but slowly, almost unnoticed at first. A distance that does not always show on the outside but is felt deeply within. You can continue living your life, doing what you need to do, speaking the same words, following the same routine. But something is different. Your connection with God does not feel the same. Not because God moved away, but because something inside you stepped back. This is where many people misunderstand what they are feeling. They think the discomfort is only guilt, but it goes deeper than that. It is the awareness of separation, the sense that something sacred has been disrupted, that the closeness you once felt is no longer as strong, as natural, as present. And that creates an internal conflict, because part of you still desires that connection. You remember what it felt like to be at peace, to feel aligned, to approach God without hesitation. But another part of you feels unworthy, hesitant, unsure if you can return to that place. So you stay in between, not fully distant, but not fully connected, not completely lost, but not completely at peace. And that space in between is exhausting, because it requires constant effort to maintain something that is not whole. You may try to fix it through actions, doing more, trying harder, convincing yourself that if you improve enough, you will close that gap. But the distance you feel is not something you can solve through effort alone. It is not about performance. It is about restoration. And restoration does not begin with what you do. It begins with what you acknowledge. Because the truth is simple, even if it is difficult to accept. The distance you feel is real, not imagined, not exaggerated. It is the natural result of something within you that has not yet been brought into the light. But here is what changes everything. Distance does not mean disconnection forever. It does not mean that what was lost cannot be restored. It means there is something that needs to be addressed with honesty, not avoided with effort. This is where Psalm 51 becomes more than words. It becomes a doorway, a path back, not built on perfection, but on truth, not built on deserving, but on mercy. And the moment you understand that the issue is not just the mistake, but the distance it created, everything begins to shift. Because now the goal is not to erase the past. The goal is to restore what was broken. And that restoration does not start with strength. It starts with a cry, a real one, a raw one, the kind that comes from a place you can no longer hide. That is where the next step begins. The cry that rises from the depths. There comes a point where silence is no longer enough, where thinking about it is no longer enough, where trying to manage what you feel internally begins to fail. The weight, the awareness, the distance you have been carrying reaches a place where it demands expression, not a controlled explanation, not a carefully structured thought, but something raw, something real. This is where the cry begins. Not the kind of cry that seeks attention, but the one that comes from the deepest part of who you are. The kind that does not try to sound right, does not try to impress, does not try to hide behind polished words. It is honest. It is exposed. It is the moment when you stop holding everything together and allow what is inside you to finally come out. This is exactly where Psalm 51 was born. Not from comfort, not from strength, not from a place of control. It came from brokenness. From a moment where everything became clear and there was no more room for denial, no more space for justification, only truth and the overwhelming need to respond to it. And that is what makes this moment so powerful, because it is not about saying the perfect words. It is about reaching a place where your heart is no longer divided, where what you feel and what you say align completely, where there is no gap between your awareness and your expression. Many people never reach this point. They stay in silence. They stay in thought. They stay in that space between knowing and speaking. But nothing changes there. Because transformation does not begin in silence alone. It begins when what is inside you is finally brought out into the open. This cry is not weakness. It is clarity. It is the moment when you stop trying to carry everything on your own and recognize that you cannot fix what is broken within you by yourself. It is the point where you stop negotiating with your own thoughts and start reaching beyond them. And here is what changes everything. This cry is not rejected. It is not ignored. It is not met with distance. It is met with mercy, not because of how well you express it, but because of the sincerity behind it. You do not need to prepare for this moment. You do not need to organize your thoughts or find the right structure. What matters is that it is real, that it comes from the place you have been avoiding, the place where truth has been waiting for you to acknowledge it fully. Because once that cry is released, something shifts. The tension begins to break. The distance begins to close. Not completely, not instantly, but genuinely. The process of restoration begins at that exact point, but there is still something that can hold you back, even here. Something that makes you hesitate, that makes you want to soften the truth, to protect yourself from full exposure. That barrier is not external. It is internal, and it must be broken. Mercy above merit. There is a truth that most people struggle to accept, even after years of faith. You have been taught, directly or indirectly, that you must earn your way back, that if you do enough good, pray enough times, fix enough behaviors, then maybe you will be worthy of forgiveness. But this is where everything changes. This is where the message of Psalm 51 breaks every false belief you have carried. Forgiveness is not a transaction. It is not a reward for improved behavior. It is not something you unlock after reaching a spiritual level. Mercy does not respond to performance. Mercy responds to surrender. This is why the voice in Psalm 51 does not say, "Look at what I have done right." It cries out, "Have mercy on me." There is no attempt to negotiate, no effort to impress, no presentation of achievements, just a broken heart reaching toward a God who does not measure worth the way humans do. Think about that for a moment. If forgiveness depended on merit, you would always be uncertain. You would always question if you had done enough. You would always live with a quiet fear that one mistake could push you too far. But mercy removes that fear completely. Mercy says that even when you fall short, you are not rejected. Even when you fail, you are not abandoned. This is what makes grace so powerful. It meets you in your lowest moment, not after you fix yourself, but while you are still aware that you cannot fix yourself alone. And this is where many people hesitate, because accepting mercy requires something deeper than effort. It requires humility. It requires letting go of control. It requires admitting that you cannot save yourself by your own strength. But here is the shift you need to understand. Mercy is not permission to stay the same. Mercy is the doorway to transformation. When you truly receive it, something inside you changes. Not because you are forced to change, but because you are loved in a way that reshapes how you see yourself. You stop running from God. You stop hiding. You stop pretending. And for the first time, you begin to walk in honesty instead of fear. Right now, this is your moment to decide. Will you keep trying to earn what has already been offered? Or will you accept the mercy that is already reaching for you? Because the next step will take you even deeper. It will move from understanding mercy into experiencing real inner cleansing. Real inner cleansing. There is a difference between appearing clean and actually being clean. Most people spend years trying to fix what others can see, adjusting behavior, controlling words, managing reactions. But deep inside, something remains untouched. The weight does not leave. The thoughts return. The same patterns repeat. And this is where frustration begins to grow. Because you start to realize that external change is not enough. This is exactly where Psalm 51 takes a deeper turn. It does not focus on surface correction. It goes straight to the core. Create in me a clean heart. That is not a request for improvement. That is a request for transformation at the deepest level of your being. A clean heart is not something you build piece by piece. It is something God creates. Let that sink in. You are not being asked to repair yourself. You are being invited to be remade. Think about how exhausting it is to carry inner conflict, to smile on the outside while something inside feels misaligned, to try to move forward while part of you feels stuck in the past. That tension drains your energy. It steals your peace. It keeps you from fully experiencing life. But real cleansing does something different. It does not just remove guilt. It restores alignment. It brings your thoughts, your emotions, and your spirit back into harmony. And this is why the prayer is so bold. It does not say, "Make me better." It says, "Make me new." Because a new heart responds differently. A new heart sees differently. A new heart desires differently. The things that once pulled you away lose their grip. The patterns that once controlled you begin to break. This is not behavior management. This is inner renewal. And here is the part most people overlook. True cleansing is not just about removing what is wrong. It is about restoring what was lost. Peace returns. Clarity returns. Sensitivity to God's presence returns. You begin to feel again what you thought was gone. Right now, you may feel like something inside you is too damaged, too stained, too far gone, but that is exactly the place where this prayer works. It was never meant for perfect people. It was meant for honest hearts. So stop trying to hide what needs to be healed. Stop covering what needs to be touched. This is where transformation begins. And as this truth settles in, something else rises to the surface. A realization you cannot ignore anymore. You are tired of carrying what was never meant to stay inside you, and that is where the next step begins. The soul tired of carrying. There comes a moment when you realize the weight is no longer just emotional. It becomes physical. It shows up in your body, in your thoughts, in your energy. You wake up already tired. You try to move forward, but something keeps pulling you back. Not because you want to stay there, but because you have been carrying too much for too long. Guilt is heavy. Regret is heavy. Unresolved mistakes do not stay quiet. They follow you into your decisions, into your relationships, into your sense of identity. And the longer you carry them, the more they begin to define how you see yourself. You start to believe that this weight is part of who you are. But it is not. Psalm 51 reveals something many people never fully understand. The soul was never designed to carry this kind of burden alone. When you hold on to guilt without releasing it, it does not make you stronger. It drains you. It distorts your thinking. It convinces you that you have to keep paying for what has already been done. And this is where exhaustion reaches its peak. Not because life is too hard, but because you are carrying something that was never meant to stay with you. Think about how much energy it takes to replay the past, to revisit the same moment, the same mistake, the same regret over and over again. It feels like responsibility, but in reality it becomes a prison. You are not correcting anything. You are reliving it. And slowly, without realizing it, you begin to lose hope. Not in God, but in yourself. You start to question if real change is even possible. You wonder if this is just how things will always be. But here is the truth you need to hear right now. You are not meant to carry this forever. There is a release available to you, but it requires a decision. Not a perfect prayer, not a perfect mindset, just a decision to stop holding on to what is already breaking you. Because as long as you keep gripping the weight, you cannot receive what is meant to replace it. This is the turning point. The moment where you stop managing the burden and start letting it go. You do not need to have everything figured out. You do not need to feel ready. You just need to be willing. Willing to stop resisting. Willing to be honest. Willing to open your heart without filters, because the next step is not about understanding more. It is about surrender. Transition into surrender. Stop for a moment, not physically, but internally. Everything you have been carrying, everything you have been processing, everything that has been surfacing up to this point, do not push it away. Do not try to organize it. Do not try to fix it. Just let it be present. This is where most people hesitate. Because slowing down means facing what has been avoided. It means sitting with thoughts that are uncomfortable, emotions that feel exposed, truths that are no longer hidden. And the instinct is always the same. Distract, delay, escape. But if you keep running, nothing changes. This moment is different. This is not about analyzing your past or trying to control your future. This is about becoming fully honest in the present. No filters, no performance, no spiritual image to maintain. Right now, you are not here to impress God. You are here to be real with Him, and that changes everything. Surrender does not begin with perfect words. It begins with a shift in posture, an internal decision that says, I will stop holding everything together by myself. It is the moment you release control, not because you have given up, but because you recognize that control has not been working. Think about how much effort it takes to maintain the illusion that you are fine, to carry your struggles quietly, to keep everything inside while still trying to function normally. That constant tension is exhausting. Surrender breaks that cycle. It allows you to come as you are, not as you think you should be. It gives you permission to drop the weight, not gradually, but completely. And yes, it feels unfamiliar. It feels vulnerable. Because for so long, you have been relying on your own strength to manage what you were never meant to carry alone. But here is the truth. God is not waiting for a polished version of you. He is waiting for the real version of you. The one that admits. The one that feels. The one that no longer hides behind explanations or excuses. Right now, this is your moment to shift. You do not need to prepare. You do not need to rehearse. You do not need to get it right. Just stop resisting. Let your guard down. Let your thoughts settle. Let your heart speak without interruption. Because what comes next is not information. It is encounter. And it starts with a simple step. Speak. Guided prayer. Honest confession. This is the moment where everything becomes real. No more reflection without action. No more awareness without response. What has been building inside you now needs a voice. Not a rehearsed voice. Not a perfect voice. A real one. Right now, speak from where you truly are. God, I come before you without pretending. I will not hide behind explanations. I will not try to justify what I already know is wrong. You see everything clearly, and today I choose to see it the same way. I acknowledge what I have done. I acknowledge the thoughts I allowed, the decisions I made, the moments where I knew better, but chose otherwise. I will not shift the blame. I will not minimize it. I take responsibility for what is mine. There is no strength in denial. There is no healing in avoidance. So I bring everything into the light. God, you know the parts of me that no one else sees. The struggles I keep hidden, the patterns I have repeated, the areas where I feel weak, inconsistent, and tired of failing. I admit it all, not because I am condemned, but because I am ready to be free. I confess the pride that kept me from being honest. I confess the fear that made me hide. I confess the moments where I ignored your voice and followed my own way. I do not want to carry this anymore. I do not want to live divided inside. So I release it now. Not partially. Completely. Every regret, every mistake, every hidden weight, I place it before you. I stop holding on to it as if I can fix it. I stop replaying it as if that will change anything. I let it go. God, I am not asking you to overlook what I have done. I am asking you to meet me in it, to see my honesty, to receive my surrender, to respond not with rejection, but with the mercy you have already promised. I stand here with nothing to offer but truth, and that is enough. Right now, stay in this moment. Do not rush. Let your heart remain open. Let the silence speak. Let the weight you released settle outside of you instead of inside you, because what comes next will go deeper. This is not just about admitting what was wrong. It is about asking for something new to begin within you. Cry for cleansing. Now that you have spoken honestly, do not step back. Move forward. Confession opens the door, but cleansing transforms what is inside. This is where you stop looking at what was and begin to ask for what must become. Stay present. Do not let your mind drift. This moment matters more than you realize. God, I do not want to leave this moment the same way I entered. I am not here just to admit what is broken. I am here because I need you to change what I cannot change on my own. Create in me a clean heart, not a temporary fix, not a surface adjustment. Go deeper than my behavior. Go into the places where my thoughts begin, where my desires are formed, where my decisions are shaped before anyone sees them. Remove what does not belong. Take away the impulses that pull me away from you. Silence the inner voice that leads me back into the same cycles. Break the patterns that keep repeating in my life. I do not want to manage these things anymore. I want them transformed. Wash me completely, not partially, not selectively. Every hidden corner, every memory that still carries weight, every part of me that feels stained by what I have done. Clean it in a way that only you can. Renew what has been damaged. Restore clarity where confusion has taken over. Restore sensitivity where I have become numb. Restore conviction where I have become indifferent. Let me feel again what I once ignored. God, do not just remove the wrong. Replace it with what is right. Where there was heaviness, bring peace. Where there was distortion, bring truth. Where there was weakness, bring strength that does not come from me but from you. Make my heart responsive to your presence again. I do not want to drift. I do not want to live disconnected. I want to recognize your voice clearly. I want to respond without hesitation. I want to walk aligned with you, not occasionally, but consistently. And I understand something now. This is not something I can force. This is not something I can produce by effort alone. This is something I receive. So I open myself fully. No resistance, no hesitation, no holding back. Do what only you can do. Stay here for a moment. Let these words settle into you. Let the idea of being made new become real, not distant. Because what comes next is something your soul has been longing for more than you realized. Not just cleansing. Restoration. Restoration of joy. Cleansing removes the weight, but restoration brings life back. Many people stop at forgiveness. They feel relief, but something still feels missing. The heaviness is gone, yet the joy has not returned. The connection feels distant, not broken, but not fully alive. This is where this moment goes deeper. God never intended for you to live forgiven but empty. He restores what was lost, not just what was damaged. So stay present. Do not move away from this place. God, now that I have released what was weighing me down, I ask for something I cannot create on my own. Restore the joy that I lost along the way, not a temporary feeling, not something dependent on circumstances. I am asking for a deep, steady joy that comes from being connected to you again. There were moments when I felt close to you, moments when your presence was clear, when my heart was light, when my faith felt alive. And somewhere along the way, that began to fade. I want that restored. Bring back the awareness of your presence in my daily life. Let me feel the peace that comes from knowing I am not alone. Let me experience the quiet confidence that you are with me, even when everything around me feels uncertain. Remove the numbness. There have been times when I felt distant, not because you moved away, but because I did. Times when I stopped paying attention, when I became distracted, when I allowed other things to take priority. Awaken me again. Let my heart respond to you with sincerity. Let my spirit recognize you without effort. Let my mind settle into the truth that I am not disconnected anymore. God, replace what was lost with something stronger. Not just the joy I had before, but a deeper joy, one that has been tested, one that has gone through struggle and come out more real, more grounded, more unshakable. I do not want a fragile faith. I want a restored connection. Let gratitude rise naturally again. Let peace become familiar again. Let hope feel real again. And most of all, let me walk with you in a way that is consistent, not based on emotion, but rooted in truth. Right now, receive this. Do not question it. Do not analyze if you feel it yet. Restoration is not always instant in sensation, but it begins immediately in the spirit. Something has shifted. And as this restoration begins, a new way of living starts to form. Not the old version of you trying again. A renewed version of you walking differently. A new connection with God. Something has changed. Not just in words, not just in intention, but in position. You are no longer standing at a distance trying to reach God from afar. You are standing in connection again. And that changes how everything begins to unfold from this moment forward. Most people think connection with God is something fragile, something that comes and goes depending on how they feel or how well they perform. But that is not what this moment reveals. Connection is not built on perfection. It is sustained by relationship. Right now, you are not trying to reconnect. You are connected. Let that truth settle in you. You are not speaking into silence. You are not reaching towards someone distant. God is present, aware, attentive. The distance you once felt was never about his absence. It was about your awareness. And now, that awareness has been restored. This is where everything begins to shift in a practical way. When connection is real, your decisions begin to change, not because you are forcing yourself to do better, but because you are no longer operating alone. There is guidance available. There is clarity available. There is a quiet direction that begins to influence how you think, how you respond, how you move through your day. You start to notice it in small moments. A thought that redirects you, a pause before a reaction, a sense of peace where there would normally be anxiety. These are not coincidences. These are signs of connection. And here is what you need to understand. This connection does not demand constant perfection to remain. It requires awareness. It grows through attention. The more you recognize it, the stronger it becomes. You do not need to strive to maintain it. You need to stay aware of it. God is not waiting for you to fail so he can pull away. He is present, steady, consistent. The same presence you feel now is available in every moment that follows, whether you acknowledge it or not. So begin to walk differently, not cautiously afraid of losing what you just received, but confidently, knowing that what has been restored is not easily taken away. You are no longer trying to earn closeness. You are learning to live from it. And as this truth becomes real in your daily life, something even more powerful begins to take shape. A new identity, not defined by what you did, but defined by who you are becoming. A life that begins again. This is where everything becomes real, not in a dramatic moment, not in something that fades after you finish listening. This is where your life actually begins to move in a new direction, because what just happened inside you was not temporary emotion. It was a shift in foundation. You are not returning to the same life you had before this moment. You are moving forward from a different place. Most people think starting over means erasing the past. That is not what is happening here. Your past is not being erased. It is being repositioned. It no longer defines you. It no longer controls how you see yourself. It no longer dictates what you believe is possible for your future. You are not your past anymore. Let that truth settle deeply. The mistakes, the guilt, the weight you carried, they are no longer your identity. They are part of a story that has already been transformed. And because of that, your next steps are not limited by what came before. This is what a real beginning looks like. It is quiet, but powerful. It does not demand attention, but it changes everything. From this moment forward, you begin to live differently. You begin to make decisions with clarity instead of confusion. You begin to respond with peace instead of reacting from pain. You begin to walk with a sense of direction that does not depend on circumstances being perfect. And there will be moments where the past tries to speak again. Old thoughts may return. Old feelings may try to resurface. But now you know something you did not fully understand before. You do not have to agree with them. You do not have to go back. You have already stepped into something new. So when those moments come, you do not fight them with fear. You respond with awareness. You remind yourself of what has already been restored. You remind yourself that you are no longer carrying what you used to carry. This is how transformation becomes real. Not in one perfect moment, but in consistent awareness. Every day you choose to walk in what has already been given to you. Every day you choose to live from the place of restoration instead of the place of regret. And as you continue in this direction, something powerful begins to happen. Your life starts to reflect the change that took place inside you. Not just in how you feel, but in how you live, how you speak, how you see yourself, and how you relate to God. This is not just a moment of prayer. This is the beginning of a new life. And if you hold on to what you received here, if you return to this place of honesty, surrender, and connection, you will begin to see something undeniable. You are not the same person anymore. You have been restored. And now, you are walking forward as someone who has truly begun again.